It ends up being how you see Canada. Um, and this would change over time because my learning changed. But almost right away, I started to see Canada as not something that I was part of, but something that was on top of me, something that wanted to hurt me and wanted to make me disappear. And that was not an easy thing to shift around because there's this comfort in feeling like we're all in this together and we all experience Canada the same way. We don't all experience Canada the same way. And I would say that getting involved in activism at a young age helped with that because definitely when you are in Native activist spaces, you're getting access to our teachings because, there's a lot of our elders that are around who are not only traditional teachers but also activists. And so they're actually able to give someone like me my first teachings and my first kind of set of understandings. So that's the positive part. But definitely, being involved in the Oka, what they call the Oka crisis, we were involved in taking action here in Toronto. And this whole notion that, white supremacist groups might follow you home and hurt you, which did happen to people that I know. People knowing that the cops are not really there to protect you and they might actually hurt you on your way home from an action, that kind of thing. So I had to just retrain how I thought about almost everything during that time. It was pretty challenging. I mean, the stereotype is if you're mixed race, that you have a little bit of both. But actually being raised by one and then turning out to be the other, there's ways that I've engaged with that as a writer and as a speaker that I try to make use of that story and in some ways give reflection back to Canada on who Canada thinks it is or who Canadians think they are. Because sometimes I don't necessarily have to think about Native people is the way that settler society works. Maybe if I'm a hero, a really super awesome settler, then I'll take some time and think about Native issues. But generally, I can ignore it if I want to. And that was definitely different because I'm living it. I can't really ignore it. And I would say the other thing that shifted is just looking at adoption, because I think as an adoptee, we would tend to just think okay, I'm adopted, so I got my mind around that. I understand what that is. But when I look at it in terms of my whole family, my Indigenous family, my Ojibwe family, seeing how over the generations I was adopted out, my father was in residential school, and my grandparents were in residential school. The generation right before that were fluent in Ojibwe. They were clearly leaders in our community, cultural leaders, and 3 generations of interference with children from Canada's part, then you ended up with me and I didn't even know I was Native. So it is very damaging and very effective in terms of erasing us, and even inside of our own minds, which is, I lived through it and I still can't believe that that's real. But it is.